Good morning, everyone. We're talking beans. It's a great morning to be talking beans, especially if you got a bowl of bean soup that you're getting ready to eat for lunch. Hopefully, you had a nice warm breakfast. Starting the morning off as we're broadcasting today live in Saginaw, I'm Terry Henney, and it was downright cold this morning. I think we started off at about 6 or 7 below zero. Joe Kramer with the Michigan Bean Commission is joining me right now to talk a little bean action here. And Joe, it wasn't much warmer where you are either, is it?
No, we were -9 this morning, Terry. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it.
I'm tired of it real quick, but I'll tell you, there's a couple other guys that we're going to be talking to momentarily, where they have to contend with some pretty chilly temperatures too. Where are they located?
That they do. Terry, I've asked a couple of my friends from the Mindeq region to join us this morning. And as you and I talk often, the Mindeq region has such an impact on our markets and the direction of the market. And honestly, I think we spend a lot of time thinking of them as a competitor, and in many ways they are. But for our end user customers, the Mindeq region and the Michigan region, Nebraska region, they all kind of complement each other in the supply chain. So if we didn't have a crop in Mindeq, Michigan couldn't take care of the demand, and vice versa. So I've invited a couple of buddies to just hang out with us a little bit this morning. I've got Pat King with us. I think Pat's traveling today, so he's going to look a little bit out of sorts because he's not shoveling snow. He told me last week it was 19 below, but it does not look like 19 below where he's at today. And David Cholin is with us this morning. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what he does. And I think we'll start with Pat and let him introduce himself.
Hi, Pat. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yep.
Pat, where are you located today?
I'm originally from Bay City. I started my bean life at the Jackrabbit plant. I'm in sunny Florida today.
Nice.
Real nice. I'll tell you where. I think the last time I talked to Pat just a few minutes ago before we went on, he said it was like 70 degrees, guys. I think there's a 100-degree temperature variance from where he is to where his house is.
That's probably right.
Up in the Dakotas.
That's exactly right.
Joe, tell us a little bit about.
Sorry to rub that in.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about how you work with Pat.
Well, Pat and I go back a long ways. He's a native of Bay City that started his bean career in Michigan. I think he just mentioned, he's breaking up a little bit, but I think he just mentioned the Jackrabbit plant in Saginaw originally when he was a much younger man. But Pat and I spent a lot of time sort of comparing notes over the years about what's going on in the Mindeq region, what's going on in Michigan. We would use each other a little bit to manage risk back when I was trading beans. And it's always been a great relationship. We've called on customers together and spent a lot of time together. David, you're in a little bit different situation. You and I don't know each other quite as well as Pat and I do, but tell us about yourself and where you're at, where you're located.
Yeah, I work with Central Valley Bean. Take care of some marketing. I work with seed sales and stuff also. Basically, been in the dry bean business probably about 15 years now. Was more in the operations side to start, went into the seed channels, and then now into the marketing side. So yeah, it's been kind of a nice, diverse background, anyways, to kind of see all sides of it. But yeah, I've been here with Central Valley for a couple of years now, doing the marketing.
So your working relationship, Joe, with our two guys today, it seems like it's a pretty heavily communicated relationship. You guys work together on a lot of things.
David, you want to take a shot at that? Why that makes sense?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time back and forth, just kind of with information, different things that we discuss as far as what markets look like, what's going on in the industry. It even is into with the dry bean council stuff. It just all the different avenues, the problems we encounter, the things that we kind of need to work through as an industry, things that we see concerning and troubling, right down to just how the local markets are doing and what we're seeing with weather or things that will affect the industry as a whole. So yeah, I guess we kind of all have different paths, but we would definitely, it's good intel on all different sides to bring together.
David, you have another relationship here in Michigan as well, don't you?
Yeah, we Central Valley and Cooperative Elevator in Pigeon, we have a joint venture, which is Alliance Valley Bean in Larimore, which takes care of a lot of black beans. They also process and receive pinto beans, but they mainly take care of black beans in the Mindac area here in that facility. So we work very closely with Cooperative Elevator on marketing and just a lot of intel goes back and forth on what acres are going to take place, where opportunities are, and where I guess issues may lie.
Pat, you spend most of your day talking about black beans, I think, and some pinto beans. David, you focus on pinto beans mainly?
Yeah, mainly on pinto beans. A lion's share of it probably is on pinto beans. I'd probably say 75% of my time is consumed with pintos and probably 25 with blacks.
Sure.
We do some navy bean handling and stuff, but just mainly pintos and blacks are my kind of what I work on.
So I wanted to chat just a little bit this morning about sort of where we're at with the 2020 crop in terms of the market year. What's that look like in Mindac? How far sold are you? What's left for inventory? Pat, maybe you want to start just with kind of an overview of the region. I don't know if we're going to get to.
Well, Joe, I don't know how my reception is. Can you hear me okay?
Not so well. Not so well. Pat, maybe take off your video and just put it up to your ear, maybe.
All right.
Pat,
Let me try this real quick.
Pull up your antenna, Pat.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
David, didn't you say he had a face for radio?
Yeah, he sure does.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for Pat, David, just tell us a little bit about your where you're at in terms of the grower sales, selling. What's that look like today?
This has been kind of an interesting year. We had on pinto beans, we had a lot of acres last year in the 2020 crop planted, and we had pretty decent yields on average. And the pipeline was empty when we came into this crop at harvest time, and we needed a decent crop to replenish supplies. And we kind of figured that there'd be a pretty decent crop. We thought, and it did turn out to be a decent crop, decent yields. Overall, it's kind of surprising. The rest of the commodity prices have kind of put some pressure on dry beans and kind of brought this price along. Maybe if we wouldn't had that competition, we might not have had maybe the price levels we have right now. But overall, it's kept a kind of a floor in there. I would say we had some export opportunities that came into the market that really helped us with movement on maybe a little bit bigger crop, and that's taken a lot of pressure away from oversupply. So we've been able to stay competitive with the competing commodities. A lot of the specialty commodities in our area have been also very competitive. Canola, sunflowers, things like that. And then obviously some soybeans have been the one we've kind of feel like we've been chasing all fall and part of the winter. So there's always that in the equation, but it's been all right. We've been fairly able to stay fairly competitive.
I think it's the same way here. We've been chasing soybeans for a while too, but so you guys are looking at 2021 and what acres are going to look like, or what your expectations are. I'm curious about the end user and what's the end user attitude today as we've seen these strong CBOT prices.
I think it's kind of it's a wide spectrum this year, probably a little wider than normal. There's a fair amount of needing some coverage, end users. Some end users feel like they need some coverage, maybe are not dazzled with the price levels we're at right now, but feel like they need some type of coverage. And there's other ones that feel like it's just not in the game right now. It doesn't make sense for them at these levels. So we have a pretty wide spectrum of coverage. Overall, I would say support is probably on the lower side from the end user than normal.
Is the forecast, does the crystal ball tell you that there's a significant change in acreage again, going the other way versus last year, for example?
Well, I think after last year, we had a record acres of pinto beans, so I think by default we're going to be down. What that number is, I'm not real certain at this point. There's quite a bit of time left, and then what soybeans do and some other commodities do. But we'll definitely, I'm thinking we'll be down at a minimum probably 20% on acres, but we probably need to be also.
So if acres are down, assume we have an average crop, we probably won't carry in. It doesn't feel like we'll carry in a whole lot. I don't know if you agree with that. I'm assuming we won't carry in a whole lot. How does that, what's in your crystal ball there? What's that add up to?
Well, I think, we had a lot of export this year, and, maybe we probably had a little bit of oversupply if we wouldn't have had that export support in there.
Right.
And I think with maybe acres being backed off a little bit, will maybe be more of a normal level, which will probably help us maybe maintain a nice supply where we don't swing too far one way or another. It's nice to see that, not necessarily just enough supply, but supply that kind of not a burdensome and not a short.
Right.
It rides the price spike. A steady supply really seems to do well for our industry. And
I'm just kind of curious, David, how has the weather played into the 2021 projections here so far?
Well, that's a interesting question too, because with this cold weather, we got to feel like we've maybe lost some of this. There's going to be some winter wheat damage, I would think. So I feel like we'll probably see a little bit of maybe a little strength in the wheat, small grains. That's going to probably play out on our side. Our corn and our wheat are the first things planted, and it's tough for a farmer if you're going to make money on whatever you're going to plant, or you can pencil a profit on anything you're going to plant. You're probably not going to stop the planter when the weather's good. The wait to plant something, so it'll probably on a normal situation, if we have good planting, we'll probably see a fair amount of corn go in on the southern part. We're going to see some canola going in on the northern parts, just because the pricing is fairly competitive on all commodities that are going to get raised. There's no real dragger this year. So I think we'll probably see maybe a few acres, if planting's good, we'll see a few acres kind of get switched last minute, where they maybe get pulled from soybeans and dry beans or the later crops.
That's why I was kind of curious, how the weather is playing in on this thing, because we're seeing commodity pricing right now of all the commodities unusually high for this time of the year. And I don't think some producers had really planned on seeing prices as high as what they are, given wheat, corn, and soybeans. And, the bean industry, obviously, we appear to have markets out there, and we do need supply. So we've got to feed those markets. But I'm just wondering, what's the inclination going to be that a producer, like you say, might have to work his wheat out for no reason other than it didn't come up or it's not looking good? And where are they going to go with it? Are they going to go with soys? Are they going to go with corn? Or are they going to go with our beans? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I think that's going to depend a lot on our spring. a lot on our moisture levels. We're fairly dry in the Mindak area right now, coming into spring, but ultimately a big snowpack. We're not like the mountains out west where a big snowpack is crucial for us. Most of our ground's frozen, so most of our snowpack runs off. So our key moisture either comes in the fall or in the spring when the ground is thawed out. So we get some decent rains in the spring. That kind of changes the outlook for everything. But if it gets a little bit later and it's dry, there might be the no corn plant or less corn planted or some acres switching on that side. But for right now, it's going to depend a certain amount on the spring. And I think for the most part, guys are going to kind of stick with their rotations where they're at right now.
Joe, Pat, Dave, I think we've got Pat back on. Pat, are you there?
Oh, if he's there, I was going to ask a little bit about the impact of COVID on demand, particularly exports. And I don't know if either one of you have an opinion about that. Pat, can you hear us?
I think the demand with the COVID demand has been kind of real all over the place. You look at the issues we had is with our infrastructure in the United States. We have just a fantastic infrastructure throughout the U.S. And you look at the supply chain issues we had. You got to believe in the developing countries. The demand was a lot worse. They felt the pain a lot worse than we did per se. But we've noticed a lot of movement, and I think that's where some of this export business has worked well. Dry beans, pulses as a whole work very well for transport, and they're dry. You don't have to worry about refrigeration, things like that. So they're a good protein food source to move around, and you get a lot of bang for your buck.
David, do you get involved in much of the food aid business?
No, not really. Pat and I work at times. We'll kind of compile information. Pat does a lot of that. He deals more directly with them, but kind of intel and stuff. We try to work together to gather as much information so that he's as educated as he can be. Input on some of that.
I think there's a couple of tenders out there right now that include pintos and some black beans.
Yeah.
But I think in the $800 million COVID relief package that the new administration's put in place, I'm really expecting to see some bigger tonnages, probably white beans going toward Yemen, that type of thing. I don't know if you've got that on your radar or not.
Yeah, I think between the COVID and the administration that we have, I think food aid will probably be a little more active than it has been. There's definitely a need for it, as you kind of look at the food pantries. A lot of that small pack that's going into food pantries right now, and some of this tenders that they're working on have been I think pretty well received in the just domestically in our food pantries, which is a good thing. If we have the inventory and the supplies to take care of that, there's nothing wrong with taking care of home plate.
How big of a challenge is that going to be, David, making sure we've got the inventories available?
And I think we do. The U.S. can produce a lot of food. We can produce a lot of pulses, and we can produce a lot of food. And I think the inventories will be there. It might not be exactly the class or the commodity that they're after, but there's definitely going to be there'll be food.
Pat, are you on with us right now? It sounds like
I'm on. I just don't know if you can hear me.
I could hear you there just for a second. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, great. Okay. Just real quick, Joe, I know you had a couple of questions for Pat.
Well, Patrick, I was wondering about export demand. I know you do a lot of business into the islands, and I was just curious how that's going. What's that look like? Is there a COVID play involved in that? And I have also heard you mention logistics issues.
Okay, yeah, we're having a hard time hearing Pat.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get them, but
No, it doesn't sound that way. David, in closing, I'm just again, I'm real curious about the planting intentions. You know, how you think things are going to shape up in the Mindac area. Does it look like you're going to be able to provide the product that you feel you're going to be comfortable with this year?
Oh, I think so. I think they'll, I always figure they've been eating beans for over 2,000 years. They're not going to quit this year just because things are a little tighter, whatever. It might just, price might be a little different, but.
And our logistics should be working okay, you think?
Yeah, I think there'll be definitely beans planted. It's just going to have a little competition. They'll keep a little floor in the pricing more than likely. We'll see how the spring plays out and what we end up with for as far as carryover and acres planted is going to be kind of the real question. We are going to see a little bit of heartburn from this weather issues that's kind of across the U.S. right now as far as the logistics. That's going to take a few weeks to kind of clear out if we get decent weather again. And that snowballs when it backs up. It takes a little while to get through it.
Literally snowballs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a question. I've got a question for both of you, Joe and David. Talking a little bit earlier with a grain marketer, and she mentioned the fact that under the current administration, it appears to her and some of the folks that she talks to that the Biden administration is, for all intents and purposes, mirroring the Obama administration over the past eight years of that administration, not only in personnel, because it appears as though a number of people that are entering into responsible positions with the Biden administration served in the Obama administration, but there seems to be some thought that the policies very possibly could carry over. So, Joe, let me start with you real quick. Any thought on that? Any feeling on that? And is that good or is that bad for you with the Michigan Bean Commission?
Well, on the surface, it does feel that way. I think we're expecting Secretary Vilsack to be appointed or approved this week. We think that nomination is going to go forward. I think that the Biden administration is interested in sort of a real calm atmosphere when it comes to trade and trade policy. And I think they saw the Trump administration as being a little wild, right, a little unruly. But at the end of the day, during the Obama administration, we built up debt by giving things away, and I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think that's an avenue toward sort of the humanity side of things, but it's also it also involves a lot of money when you start giving things away. So I'm not quite sure how that's all going to shake out yet, Terry. I think it's a little bit early to tell, but it does have that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, David, your thought.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of unknowns with this administration yet. There's definitely some history there, but I think we'll have to just kind of wait and see what they put in place and how they deal with it. But I'm with Joe. I think it's just maybe a little too early to have a honest assessment.
We're optimistic that we see some changes in some of the trade issues or trade barriers that we've currently got in the EU. But David, you're a pinto bean guy, and I hear they're having some problems getting pinto beans into the Dominican because of some trade barriers there that really shouldn't be in place. So we're leaning pretty hard on the administration to jump in there and fix that. We've got a trade deal in place, but not everybody's living up to it. So we need a little help out of the negotiators there, the enforcers, if you will, to cure that, so that flow can continue, because there certainly is demand there.
Right. And it's not only, some of the issues we see with, it's not only just our administration. They have to work with the administration on the other side, and that sometimes takes a little work and persuasion to try to get things ironed out. So
yeah, really good point.
So in closing, David, any last thoughts?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, and eat lots of beans and try and stay warm and take care.
Terry, I just saw a question pop up. One of the listeners was interested in where they can buy some cranberry beans and Azuki beans in 25-pound bags. And I can tell you from a Michigan perspective, David, maybe you got some tucked away, but from a Michigan perspective, most of the Azuki beans are contracted, and they get exported to Japan. It's honestly, it's really hard to find some Azuki beans, but if you'll give me a call, Dave Turk, if you'll give me a call at 989-262-8550, I can at least help point you in the right direction. Again, 989-262-8550.
And now, Dave, you don't have any stuck in that cabinet back behind you there, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It's a pretty limited marketplace. That they're tough. They're tough to get a hold of any surplus.
Dave, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us a little perspective from our neighbors to the west. I wish Pat had a better connection, but I'm envious of all that sunshine he's enjoying. So I'm not sure that was a legit problem, but
Right.
We'll take that up with him another time, right?
I was going to say, we're going to have another one of these, and we're going to invite him back, okay?
Yeah, David had to carry the load today, so
You played that out real well.
yeah.
He sure did. Talk about put you on the spot, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, David, we really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. Don't be a stranger, okay? If you want to get any messages across, just get a hold of us. We're doing these. We're doing them a couple times a month. Our sponsor, BASF, loves to talk beans with us. And we're more than happy to talk to whoever wants to talk about beans, because ultimately, when it's all said and done, we want our producers to give us the quality crop they can at a price that they can live with, and keep that ball rolling. All righty?
That sounds good. Thank you very much, you guys, for having me.
Thanks,
you
David.
bet.
All the best to your family.
All the best to you, David. Thank you very much. And Joe, always good to talk to you again. Great to talk beans. We'll be talking to you on the farm program on WSGW. If not today, tomorrow. So we'll be covering that. And again, our Facebook viewers, wonderful to have you on, whether it's WSGW, our WSGW Farm Service Facebook, or our 94.5 The Moose Facebook. And from what I understand, Joe, Michigan Bean Commission?
That's right. Yep. Michigan Bean Commission Facebook page as well.
And what about the website? Are we on the website?
MichiganBean.com for sure.
Hey, there we go. There we go. Talking beans. Again, David, Joe, thank you very much for spending time out of your busy day, and enjoy some hot bean soup for lunch. All right.
Thank you.
You both deserve it. Again, as we mentioned before, Talking Beans is brought to you by the folks at BASF. Thank you very much, folks. Have a great day.
It's never just been a field. It's a lab where beakers and vials are corn stalks and bean pods. It's 1,000 dinners on 1,000 plates throughout the world. It's the engine of the American economy. It's our survival. It's never been just a field. It's our future. All of ours. Your field is the future. BASF, we create